So we have a new case. This is a classic in land titles and deeds. So we have a case of Isagani Cruz, retired Supreme Court Justice Isagani Cruz and Cesar Europa versus Secretary of DNR. So daghan ni siya og parties, no? Daghan og intervenors kay kuan ni siya, tako kay ni siyang kasuha, sikat sa kayo, no? So let me give you a background on the case. This is a suit for prohibition and mandamus, assailing the constitutionality of certain provisions of Republic Act number 8371 or the Indigenous Peoples' Rights Act of 1997, IPRA, and its implementing rules and regulation. The court en banc deliberated on the petition, and the votes gathered were equally divided, with no majority vote obtained. 7 members voted to dismiss the petition. 7 other members voted to grant the petition. So, divided kayo ani ang Honorable Supreme Court. After redeliberation, the voting remained the same, 7-7. Thus, the petition pursuant to Rule 56, Section 7 of the Rules of Civil Procedure, the petition was dismissed. So, wala kayo'y grabe nga factual issue aning kasuha, is more on the legal issues. So, let's focus first on the 7-7 voting. Okay. Before the Honorable Supreme Court, the dismissal of petition where votes were equally divided and the majority vote are not obtained. Okay. So, maning una nga principle dire. The petitioners, Isagani Cruz and Cesar Europa, brought this suit for prohibition and mandamus as citizens and taxpayers, assailing the constitutionality of certain provisions of Republic Act 8371, otherwise known as the IPRA or Indigenous Peoples' Rights Act of 1997, and its implementing rules and regulations. After due deliberation on the petition, the members of the court voted as follows. 7 voted to dismiss the petition, while 7 other members of the Honorable Supreme Court voted to grant the petition. So divided kayo. As the votes were equally divided, 7-7, and the necessary majority was not obtained, the case was redeliberated upon. However, after redeliberation, the voting remained the same. Accordingly, pursuant to Rule 56, Section 7 of the Rules of Civil Procedure, the petition is dismissed. Daghan kayo ni separate opinions, kaya divided man kayo mga justices when they decided on this case. Muna sikat kay ni and gabi og lessons nga atong mapunit aning kasuha. Okay? So, RAA 371 recognizes existence of indigenous cultural communities or indigenous people. RAA 371 is an act to recognize, protect, and promote the rights of indigenous cultural communities, indigenous peoples, creating a national commission on indigenous peoples, establishing implementing mechanisms, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes. It is simply known as the Indigenous Peoples' Rights Act of 1997 or the IPRA. The IPRA recognizes the existence of the indigenous cultural communities or indigenous peoples, ICCs or IPs, no, as a distinct sector in Philippine society. It grants these people the ownership and possession of their ancestral domains and ancestral lands, and defines the extent of these lands and domains. The ownership given is the indigenous concept of ownership under customary law, which traces its origin to native title. Ancestral domains and ancestral lands are the private property of indigenous peoples and do not constitute part of the land of the public domain. So, mo ni principle direct nga dili daw siya appeal sa land of the public domain because they are private property of indigenous people. The IPRA grants to the ICCs, indigenous cultural communities, timan-an na to ICC, indigenous cultural communities or IPs, indigenous peoples, a distinct kind of ownership over ancestral domains and ancestral lands. The private character of ancestral lands and domains as laid down in the IPRA further laid down in the IPRA further strengthen the option given to individual ICCs or IPs over their individually owned ancestral lands. For purposes of registration under the Public Land Act and the Land Registration Act, the IPRA expressly converts ancestral land, convert niya ang ancestral land into public agricultural land which may be disposed of by the state. Okay? So, iyang gi-convert ang ancestral land into public agricultural land which may be disposed of by the state. The necessary implication is the ancestral land is private. Okay? So, nahimo na siya private, di na siya appeal sa public domain, land of the public domain. The ancestral land is private. It, however, has to be first converted to public agricultural land simply for registration purposes. Since ancestral domains and lands are private, if the indigenous cultural community or the indigenous people wants to avail the benefits of CA 141, Commonwealth Act 141, and Act 496, the IPRA itself converts his ancestral land, regardless of whether the land has a slope of 18% or over, from private to public agricultural land for proper disposition. The option to register land under the Public Land Act and the Land Registration Act has nonetheless a limited period. This option must be exercised within 20 years from October 20, 1997, the date of approval of the IPRA. No? It must be exercised within that 20-year period. Kani akong gibasa karon mo ni a separate opinion ni Justice Puno. No? The right of ownership and possession by the indigenous cultural communities or IPs of their ancestral domains is a limited form of ownership and does not include the right to alienate the same. Limited form of ownership lang. Dili siya absolute. Di siya complete form of ownership. Ownership of ancestral domains by native title does not entitle the indigenous cultural communities or the indigenous peoples over their ancestral domain. The right of ownership and possession of the ICCs or IPs to their ancestral domains is held under the indigenous concept of ownership. So naay tayo gitawag na indigenous concept of ownership. This concept maintains the view that ancestral domains are the ICCs or IPs private but community property. Private siya but it is community property of the indigenous cultural communities and indigenous people. It is private simply because it is not part of the public domain. Mao man na siya. Mahimo siyang private land, di na siya part of the land of the public domain. But its private character ends there. No? Muna gitawag na limited, no? Limited ownership. The ancestral domain is owned in common by the indigenous cultural communities, indigenous peoples, and not by one particular person. Mondo siya nga private property, but it is their community property of the indigenous cultural community or the indigenous people. Common na sila lahat, no? So, the ancestral domain is not owned by the ICCs or IPs and not by one particular person, no? Walay specific person to own it. It is their community property. Ownership over natural resources in the ancestral domains remains with the state. No? Ownership over natural resources in the ancestral domains remains with the state and the indigenous cultural communities, indigenous persons, are merely granted the right to manage and conserve them for the future generations, to benefit and share the profits from their allocation and utilization, and negotiate the terms and conditions for their exploration for the purpose of ensuring ecological environmental protection and conservation measures. Simply stated, the indigenous cultural communities or indigenous peoples' rights over the natural resources take the form of management or stewardship. Dili kayo siya more on mo siya limited ownership siya. Dili siya ingon nga absolute, complete or total powers of dominion. Limited siya, more of an administrator, management or stewardship on iyang function. According to this, those provisions of the law do not violate the Regalian Doctrine. Section 7A and 7B and 57 of IPRA, no, the law, do not violate the Regalian Doctrine enshrined in Section 2, Article 12 of the 1987 Constitution. Examining the IPRA, there is nothing in the law that grants to the ICCs or IPs ownership over the natural resources within their ancestral domains. The right of the ICCs or IPs in their ancestral domains includes ownership. Okay? Includes ownership, but this ownership is expressly limited. No? Expressly defined and limited in Section 7A. So it is not absolute ownership. No? Naa siya yung encumbrance, naa siya limitation. The ICCs and IPs are given the right to claim ownership over lands, bodies of water traditionally and actually occupied by the indigenous cultural communities or indigenous persons, sacred places, traditional hunting and fishing grounds, and mall improvements. Okay? All improvements made by them at any time within the domains. It will be noted that this enumeration does not mention bodies of water not occupied by the ICCs or IPs. It does not mention minerals, coal, wildlife, flora and fauna in the traditional hunting grounds. Fish in the traditional fishing grounds, also not mentioned. Forests or timber in the sacred places, etc., and all other natural resources found within the ancestral domains. Indeed, okay, the right of ownership under Section 7A, no, of IPRA does not cover waters, minerals, coal, petroleum, and other minerals, oils, all sources of potential energy, fisheries, forests, or timber, wildlife, flora and fauna, and all other natural resources enumerated in Section 2, Article 12 of the 1987 Constitution as belonging to the state. The non-inclusion of ownership by the ICCs or IPs over the natural resources in Section 7A complies with the Regalian Doctrine, no, prescribed in the Constitution. The large-scale utilization, okay, the large-scale utilization of natural resources in Section 57 of the IPRA is allowed under paragraphs 1 and 4, Section 2, Article 12 of the 1987 Constitution. Section 57 of the IPRA does not give the indigenous cultural communities or the indigenous people the right to manage and conserve the natural resources. Instead, the law only grants the ICCs or IPs priority rights in the development of exploitation, in the development or exploitation thereof. Priority means giving preference. Having priority rights over the natural resources does not necessarily mean ownership of the rights, no? It does not necessarily mean ownership rights. It just means preference. The grant of priority rights implies that there is a superior entity that owns these resources, and this entity has the power to grant preferential rights over the resources to whosoever itself chooses. Section 57 is not about repudiation. Section 57 is not a repudiation of the Regalian doctrine. Rather, it is an affirmation of the said doctrine that all natural resources found within the ancestral domains belong to the state. It incorporates by implication the Regalian doctrine, hence requires that the provision be read in the light of Section 2, Article 12 of the 1987 Constitution. Some parts of the implementing rules goes beyond the parameters of Section 7A of the IPRA and is unconstitutional. This is according to the separate opinion of Justice Puno. The constitutionality of Section 1, Part 2, Rule 3 of the implementing rules was not specifically and categorically challenged by petitioners. Petitioners actually assailed the constitutionality of the implementing rules in general. Nevertheless, to avoid any confusion in the implementation of the law, it is necessary to declare that the inclusion of natural resources in Section 1, Part 2, Rule 3 of the implementing rules goes beyond the parameters or limitations set by Section 7B of the law and is contrary to Section 2, Article 12 of the 1987 Constitution. So that is the separate opinion of Honorable Justice Puno. Let us look at the separate opinion of Honorable Justice Vito. Okay. An issue of grave national interest indeed deserves a power placed in any forum, and when it shows itself in a given judicial controversy, the rules of procedure like locus standi, kaya diri mo gud petitioners, taxpayer ni sila, no? Taxpayer suit. Like locus standi, the propriety of the specific remedy invoked, or the principle of hierarchy of courts, may ordinarily be raised by party litigants, should not be so perceived as good and inevitable justifications for advocating timidity, let alone isolationism by the court. As a general rule, parties must have personal and substantial interest in the dispute. A cardinal requirement, to which I agree according to the Honorable Justice, is that one who invokes the court's adjudication must have a personal and substantial interest in the dispute. Indeed, the developing trend would require a logical nexus between the status asserted and the claim sought to be adjudicated in order to ensure that one is the proper and appropriate party to invoke judicial power. No, dili lang kay masking kinsa. You must be someone with personal and substantial interest in the dispute. The rule requires that a party to aptly show a personal stake in the outcome of the case or an injury to himself that can be redressed by a favorable decision so as to warrant his invocation of the court's jurisdiction and to render legally feasible the exercise of the court's remedial powers in his behalf. If it were otherwise, the exercise of that power can easily become too unwieldy by its sheer magnitude and scope to a point that may, in no small measure, adversely affect its intended essentiality, stability, and consequentiality. The rule relaxed where issue is of transcendental importance. Okay. Nevertheless, where a most compelling reason exists, such as when the matter is of transcendental importance and paramount interest to the nation, the court must take liberal approach that recognizes the legal standing of non-traditional plaintiffs, such as citizens and taxpayers, to raise constitutional issues that affect them. This court thus did not so in a case that involves the conservation of our forests for ecological needs. Until an exact balance is struck, the court must accept an eclectic notion that can free itself from the bondage of legal nicety and hold transient technicalities subordinate to what may be considered to be of overriding concern. So basically, they are allowing the relaxation of the rules of procedure. So now we talk about the authority to enact laws for applicability of customary laws. This authority of Congress. No? The second paragraph of Section 5 of Article 12 of the Constitution allows Congress to provide for the applicability of customary laws governing property rights or relations in determining the ownership and extent of ancestral domains. According to the Honorable Justice, I do not see this statement as saying that Congress may enact a law that would simply express that customary laws shall govern and end it there. Had it been so, the Constitution could have itself easily provided without having to still commission Congress to do it. No, it should have been written in the Constitution itself, since it would be very simple, no, to express that customary law shall govern. Instead, it commissioned Congress to do it in order to tailor fit that law with respect to how customary law shall govern. Okay? Muna ito ang interpretation, anak. May atong understanding. The constitutional aim, it seems to me, is to get Congress to look closely into the customary laws and with specificity and by proper recitals to hew them to and make them part of the stream of laws. Okay? So the constitutional aim, according to the Honorable Justice, was to get Congress, no? Was to make Congress look into the customary laws closely and maybe customize it, no? And to tweak it so that it can become part of the law of the land. The due process clause, as I so understand, in the case of Tañada versus Tuvera, according to the separate opinion that I am reading, would require an apt publication of a legislative enactment before it is permitted to take force and effect. So, also customary laws, when specifically enacted to become part of statutory law, must first undergo that publication to render them correspondingly binding and effective as such. Napailayan yung separate opinion. Ito basahon eh. Nindot. So, it is established, this is Justice Kapunan, separate opinion. It is established doctrine that a statute should be construed whenever possible in harmony with, rather than in violation of, the Constitution. The presumption is that the legislature intended to enact a valid, sensible and just law, and one which operates no further than may be necessary to effectuate the specific purpose of the law. So mo na iyang mindset, no, ni Justice Kapunan, that there should be harmony between the law and the Constitution as much as possible. The time-tested standards for the exercise of judicial review are the following, no? Mo ni ang requisites for judicial review. The existence of an appropriate case, number 1. Number 2, an interest personal and substantial by the party raising the constitutional question. Number 3, the plea that the function be exercised at the earliest opportunity. Dili panos ba? Dili belated. Dili ulahin na kaayo. 4th, the necessity that the constitutional question be passed upon in order to decide the case. Actual case or controversy defined. An actual case or controversy means an existing case or controversy which is both ripe for resolution and susceptible for judicial determination, and that which is not conjectural or anticipatory, and that which seeks to resolve hypothetical or feigned constitutional problems. A petition raising a constitutional question does not present an actual controversy unless it alleges a legal right or power. Okay? Atong tanawon ang part nga related sa yuta. Okay? So, dito ta sa constitutional prohibition. Okay? Okay, ra. Let us talk about the Regalian Fury. No? Kanigod nga case. Pirmi ni siya na sa land titles and deeds nga topic because it explained exhaustively the Regalian doctrine. Okay? The Regalian Fury, however, does not negate native title to lands held in private ownership since time immemorial. In the landmark case of Carino versus Insular Government, the United States Supreme Court, reversing the decision of the pre-war Philippine Supreme Court, made the following pronouncement. Every presumption is and ought to be taken. Every presumption is and ought to be taken against the government in a case like the present. It might perhaps be proper and sufficient to say that when as far back as testimony or memory goes, the land has been held by individuals under a claim of private ownership. It will be presumed to have been held in the same way from before the Spanish conquest and never to have been public land. The above ruling institutionalized the recognition of the existence of native title to the land. Kaya before pa sa republic ba, privately owned na siya. Or ownership of land by Filipinos by virtue of possession under a claim of ownership since time immemorial and independent of any grant from the Spanish crown, as an exception to the theory of jura regalia. So the general rule, kita na ni chat. Ayun to na. So as a general rule mo under the Constitution, Regalian doctrine, no? Regalian doctrine ang tag-iya sa tanang yuta ang state, except if this is privately owned, no? So naa may mga properties nga gi-owned since time immemorial and independent of any grant from the Spanish crown. So this is the exception to the theory of jura regalia or the Regalian doctrine. A proper reading of Carino would show that the doctrine enunciated therein applies only to lands which have always been considered as private and not to lands of the public domain, whether alienable or otherwise. A distinction must be made between ownership of land under native title and ownership by acquisitive prescription against the state. Okay? Ownership by virtue of a native title presupposes that the land has been held by its possessor and his predecessors in interest in the concept of an owner since time immemorial. The land is not acquired from the state, no? Dili siya acquired from the state. Dili siya present ng mga patent title. You acquire that land from the state. Nahimo siyang private later on, but that is as grant to the private person by the state. But in this case, the land is not acquired from the state. That is, sa kaniyang sitwasyon, Spain or its successors in interest, the United States and the Philippine government. Okay, Spain, US, Philippine government. There has been no transfer of title from the state as the land has been regarded as private in character as far back as memory goes, no? Since time immemorial. In contrast, ownership of land by acquisitive prescription against the state involves a conversion of the character of the property from alienable public land to private land, which presupposes a transfer of title from the state to a private person. Since native title assumes that the property covered by it is private land and is deemed never to have been part of the public domain, the Solicitor General's thesis that native title under the case of Carino, no, the doctrine, applies only to lands of the public domain is erroneous. Consequently, the classification of lands of the public dominion or lands of the public domain into agricultural, forest or timber, mineral lands, and national parks under the Constitution is irrelevant to the application of the Carino Doctrine because the Regalian Doctrine, which vests in the state ownership of lands of the public domain, does not cover ancestral lands and ancestral domains. Mo na position diri sa separate opinion ni Justice Kapunan. Walay labot daw. No? Accordingly, no, the text of the provision of the 1935 Constitution invoked by the Solicitor General while embodying the theory of Hura Regalia is too clear for any misunderstanding. It simply declares that all agricultural, timber, and mineral lands of the public domain, waters, minerals, coal, petroleum, and other mineral oils, all sources of potential energy, and other natural resources of the Philippines belong to the state. Nowhere does it state that certain lands which are absolutely necessary for social welfare and existence, including those which are not part of the public domain, shall thereafter be owned by the state. If there is any room for constitutional construction, the provision should be interpreted in favor of the preservation rather than impairment or extinguishment of vested rights. Stated otherwise, Section 1, Article 12 of the 1935 Constitution cannot be construed to mean that the vested right which had existed, no, vested right, no, nitapot na ni siyang katungod, which had existed then were extinguished, and that the landowners were divested of their lands, all in the guise of wresting control of those portions of the natural resources which the state deems absolutely necessary for social welfare and existence. On the contrary, said section restated the fundamental rule against the diminution of existing rights by expressly providing that the ownership of lands of the public domain and other natural resources by the state is subject to any existing right, grant, lease, or concessions. So, na qualification, no? The existing rights that were intended to be protected must therefore include the right of ownership by indigenous peoples over their ancestral lands and domains. The words of the law should be given their ordinary or usual meaning, and the term existing rights cannot be assigned an unduly restrictive definition. That's it. Di-explain diri unsay nasud sa Regalian Doctrine o unsay gawas sa Regalian Doctrine in this separate opinion, no? Kani Regalian Doctrine, this is very important later on. Mag-discuss ta sa cases sa mga judicial titling. Ano sa masulti siya nga public land, private na siyang land. So Regalian Doctrine, presumptions under the Regalian Doctrine, important kini siya. Kaning kasuha, nindot kayo siya pagka-explain unsa ang Regalian Doctrine, unsay na-appeal, unsay walay labot, no? So anyway, I will see you again with another case. Napanilayan niya separate opinions, pero putlo na nako kay mag-lunch pa ko. Okay? So see you next time.